All right. Um, so tonight we're gonna talk about, and I got my notes here. I just want to make sure that I don't miss anything. Tonight we're gonna talk about conflict and communication. I think these are one of the foundational things that are very important in relationships, partnerships, as well as friendships. So the first topic is, how do we handle conflict? Okay. A lot of people handle conflict completely different. Um, but the first topic is, how do you handle conflict? And if you just joined the chat, just throw a thumbs up for me so I can know that you guys can hear me clearly. Please just throw a thumbs up. I want to make sure the audio is good. If you can hear me, just give me a thumbs up or a yes. Okay. So how do we handle conflict? Um, well, there are different layers to how we handle conflict. The first layer is discuss arguing styles. Okay, this is very important because the way you communicate is going to determine how the other person responds. Now, some people, when they are arguing, they may get loud. Okay, they may yell on it because they're frustrated, or they just may talk, you know, with a loud tonality because they're passionate about what it is that you guys are discussing. So you have to understand that about that particular individual. Some people, they like to uh, take some time or write things out, create a syllabus, so that you can stay on point when it comes to arguing, and it can be more effective and everything is processed, right? Um, but tone is a big thing, right? The tone is a very big thing, which we already just talked about. Triggers. You need to know what your partner's triggers are, because there may be things that you say that will make that individual shut down, especially if you have an avoidant attachment style, right? And an avoidant attachment style is an individual who did not get the love, affection, or attention that they needed earlier on. So when it comes to things that deal with emotion, they tend to shut down and run from that situation. So knowing what that person triggers are is very important, because you want to be effective as possible in having that discussion. You don't want that individual to shut down, because nothing will get resolved, right? So understanding their attachment style and what the triggers are, right? Some people may have been in abusive relationships, so when you yell at that individual, they may shut down, right? So understanding triggers, that is another thing that you need to understand. Um, if a person talks with their hands, right? Some people, they talk with their hands, that could offend a person, right? So it's very important to know what individual triggers are, when having when communicating, so that you guys can effectively have that conversation. And for those who just got on, a little bit under the weather, but like I said, I'm keeping my word when we go live, and I'm here unless anything out of my control doesn't permit me to do these lives. So we're talking about how to handle conflict. The first thing we discussed was arguing styles, the tonality, and we just finished talking about the triggers, right? The next layer is shutting down versus staying present. How ironic that I said that when we first started, right? You cannot you cannot communicate effectively if a person is shutting down, right? Everybody has to stay present. So that's why the arguing styles, the tonality, and the triggers are all important, because if those things aren't taken into account, then the person that you're communicating with will shut down, and stand present. You want the person to be present. You don't want any distractions, right? So maybe if you guys are having a very important conversation, there's some ground rules set before even having a conversation, right? Like maybe putting on phones on do not disturb, or not bringing phones around while communicating, because what you don't want to happen is you're communicating with your partner, right? And I'm looking at my phone, or she's looking at my phone, and the other person is not feeling heard or understood. So putting some ground rules in place prior to having this important conversation is definitely a must, right? Because we don't want our partners to shut down. Because once they shut down, right, the relationship goes somewhere that it shouldn't have to go, right? A lot of times we make things so difficult that could really be just so simple. Okay. So the next layer that we dive into, let me check my notes here, is what makes you feel loved, seen, and safe. Ooh, I love this one. I love this. If you've been following me for some time, then I always preach these particular topics of what makes someone feel loved, seen, and safe. So the first layer to that particular topic is love languages. And I'll identify those love languages. The love languages are touch, gifts, acts of service. Oh man, it's on the top of my head. Touch, gifts, acts of service, words of affirmation, and quality time. Okay? You want to identify what your person's love language is. And here's why that is important, right? Because what you identify as love may not make that person feel loved. Everybody feels loved differently, right? And what you don't want to do is create your own source of love for an individual that they may not necessarily receive, right? So identify that person's love language. I know for myself, it's words of affirmation and physical touch. That's what makes me feel love. I don't need a person to buy me gifts or do acts of service, because a lot of the times, if I want those material things, I can go do that myself. But obviously, if I'm seeking words of affirmation and physical touch, then that would mean I need quality time, right? So that kind of falls in. So what you want to do is you want to identify your partner's love language so that you can properly love that individual the way that they want to be loved, and not the way that you feel like they want to be loved, because it's different for everyone. Okay. The second layer on this particular topic, making a person feel loved, seen, and safe, is attachment styles. How ironic, because when I first started the chat, I talked about attachment styles. All this stuff is really intertwined. Okay, let me see what we got next. Most men desire words of affirmation, and okay, yeah, exactly. So identifying attachment styles. So I'll identify those attachment styles for you. The first attachment style is avoidant. Okay, Again, just to touch on it, an avoidant attachment style is a person that at an early age didn't get the love, attention, and affection that they may have needed growing up. So, as a defense mechanism, what they do is they will shut down or run from situations when they feel closeness or an emotional pull out of the fear of getting hurt, right? So that's very important to understand that attachment style. The second attachment style is the anxious attachment style. This could stem from having abandonment issues earlier on. At an earlier age, maybe a parent or someone significant in their life had left earlier on, or they had experience in the past where people continuously left the individual. And so what this individual does is they seek closeness, and sometimes people please out of the fear of losing those connections because they lost those connections earlier on, right? So that's an anxious attachment style. And then lastly, it's going to be the secure attachment style. This is a person that is neither avoidant or anxious. This individual can function independently. They don't have the need to shut down when things get close, and they don't have the need for closeness. They're everything is neutral with this individual. And ultimately, what you want to do is either go from anxious or avoidant. And now here's the thing, because I don't want you to think that these attachment styles are negative, because none of them are negative. It just happens to be that a lot of us come up in certain situations and circumstances that promote these attachment styles. Okay. And the last layer of this particular topic is emotional needs. I feel like this is very important in relationship, right? Because if you have a person that has trauma, you have a person that has been hurt, the way you show up in that relationship is going to be vital to helping that person overcome certain things. And not even necessarily overcome certain things, but just being there for a person emotionally, because we all have emotions. Women are ruled by emotions, but men also have emotions. And oftentimes, as men, we're told to be strong, to not be emotional, to not voice our opinions and things of that nature, because we're not going to get hurt. And the same thing is with women. So being that rock or that nurturer for your man or your woman is very important, right? Because I may not always have 100% to give in that particular time. But if I have a loving, caring, nurturing woman, she can give me that emotional support that I need when times get hard, right? And vice versa. If that woman had a hard day at work, right, a stressful day at work, because as men, we are supposed to carry the weight of that stress. That's what men are designed to do, right? Women are designed to be nurturers, to love, to be caretakers, right? So to take that weight off of her in those times when she gets emotional. Hey babe, sit down. Tell me about your day, right? Tell me what's bothering you, right? What's hurting you right now? And that goes both ways. Your man might come home hard day at work, boss was just, overwhelming, or as a business owner like myself, things can be very stressful, right? So just tending to those emotional needs can be very important and significant in a relationship. Okay. Now, the third topic is going to be, how do we define masculine and feminine energy? Oh man, I love this. I really love this because I feel like The masculine and feminine energy is what's creating an imbalance in relationships in these particular times, right? Um, let's talk about the first layer, the balance, right? What is masculine energy? Masculine energy is logic. It's leadership, right? It's going to be authoritative. Okay. What is feminine energy? It is nurturing. It is loving. It is caring, right? And so a lot of times within relationships, there is an imbalance because we have roles being reversed. We have men that are not being in their masculine era, not protecting, not providing, not using logic, right? Not alleviating the woman of the stresses that they may have on day-to-day basis. So as a man, you cannot expect to have a woman that is submissive, right? Because in order for her to be in that feminine essence, you have to take those things off of her shoulders, that weight, that stress, right? What is feminine energy? Again, loving, nurturing, caring. I think in these day and age, excuse me, women don't understand that their power is in being feminine. You have to not be so, what is the word I'm looking for? Feminine energy doesn't want to be so controlling, right? I see a lot of women that want to control situations, that want to be of authority. How can you expect to have a masculine man if you want to take the leadership role? And I'm not saying that women can't be leaders, right? But in those relationships, one person has to follow the other. And if I'm in a controlling era and I'm wanting to try to control or lead the man, what are we really doing? Right? You know, I hear some women say that there are no good men, right? But here's what you have to understand about a masculine male. There are certain standards, okay? This individual is not going to tolerate, going back and forth, being mouthy. Not saying that you can't voice your opinion, right? This individual is not going to tolerate, attention seeking behavior, right? This individual, he wants exclusivity. Okay. So, and then the women, they go out and they get a weak man that is not going to require them to be held accountable. That's going to let them do and say what it is that they want to do, right? And then say it's no good man. No, you had a good man, but you wanted to be the masculine in that situation. You wanted to control and dictate what happened in that situation. When he tried to give you leadership, or when he tried to give you advice or advise you on something, it was you're too controlling. It was you're insecure. So understand that a masculine male comes with standards. Your power is in femininity. You can control a man by simply talking with soft tonality, your touch, and your nurturing words. Your man will run through brick walls when he feels that love from you. I promise you. I promise you, you can convince a man to do anything when you have that sweet, nurturing, loving personality. So that's where we have an imbalance, right? And not and another layer is not boxing each other in, right? We want to have accountability in a situation, but um, not making a person feel like they don't have a voice. Because again, everybody in a situation has a voice to speak up and to, compromise, but not making that person feel boxed in. The fourth topic is, how do you feel heard in relationships? Mm. So I was out this past weekend, and I was sitting at a wet bar having some appetizers, and some young women walked in, and we talked about um, women having the need to feel heard and understood, and men also need this. But the first layer of that is the difference between listening to respond and the difference between listening to understand. This is absolutely vital, right? Because when you're communicating with your partner and you're just listening to respond, you have not heard anything that that person said. So what happens is the person just gets frustrated. They get tired because it's like they're talking for no reason. And you never want a person to feel like nothing is changing. Nothing can change if you're just listening to respond. So you have to be present. You have to not talk over one another when you're communicating. You know, that this part of the ground rules. When one person talks, you shut up and listen. Don't talk over that person until they have, finished talking. That's how you properly communicate. And it's funny because I didn't even just learn that from a romantic relationship, but a mentor of mine spoke that to me. Hey, bro, when you communicating, bro, like you let the other person finish before you talk. That's respect. And so we always want to be respectful in the relationship and listening to understand. I like listening to understand because now we can start to resolve some of these challenges, some of the issues within the relationship, right? An effective way to listen to understand would be to repeat back to that individual what it was that they said. So how you would say that is, hey, if I'm hearing you correctly, repeat back to the person what they just said so that they know you heard them. And now this makes a person feel loved. This makes a person feel cared for and make a person feel heard. And it makes a world of a difference when communicating. And lastly, the last topic is, can you handle accountability without getting defensive? Oh my God. This is the one right here. This is the one right here because see, no one wants to take accountability. No one wants to look at self and say, I was wrong. Do you understand that in relationships, partnerships, friendships, taking accountability is literally like the root of resolving challenges and issues? It's removing pride and ego. See, pride says that, oh, I don't care, like it's my way or no way. That, ego, it's on my own time. Like I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it. Ego, pride. Things could be resolved so much easier if you just take accountability. You have, and this is another thing. I just talked about this. When you can't be accountable for your wrongs, you kill good relationships. Strength is in accountability. Growth is in accountability. Because when you look at yourself and say, you know what, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have said that like that. Or I shouldn't have yelled at him or her like that. I shouldn't have disrespected him or her like that. That's true growth. That's when you can begin to elevate and move into the depths of the relationship. That's when you can start to really understand what loyalty means. Respect. Accountability is the root of having success in a relationship. You got to be able to put that aside, man. So I'm gonna open up the floor for questions, comments before we close this live out. Give you guys a minute or so to drop a comment or a question, and I'd be glad to answer and help you guys out to the best of my ability. I do these lives for you guys because I'm passionate about seeing people win in their relationships. I don't get paid to do this. As I say, I'm a little bit under the weather, excuse my voice, but again, a man always keeps his word unless it's outside of his control. So again, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. I'm going to close this out. I appreciate everybody that comes to these lives on Mondays. You know, we can learn, we can heal, we can grow together, and just be better. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I wish you guys the absolute best. God bless and good night. Peace.